The millionaire CEO's son was born deaf. Doctors tried, experts failed. No cure came. Millions were spent, yet the silence stayed. Then a cleaning lady noticed something everyone else missed, and in that moment, everything began to change. He was a self-made millionaire CEO, the kind of man who believed results came from effort and discipline. He built his company from the ground up, one long day at a time. Numbers made sense to him. Systems made sense. Hard work always led to answers. That belief guided his entire life, until fatherhood challenged it. When his son was born, the world slowed down. The baby didn't react to sound. No startle when doors closed. No calm when voices softened. The room felt oddly still. At first, he told himself it was nothing. Just a delay. Just time. Doctors ran tests and spoke carefully. Medical experts avoided promises. The words landed heavier than expected. Born deaf. No quick fix. No guarantee. Silence wasn't temporary. As a desperate father and a single dad, he went into action. He spent millions without hesitation, flew specialists across states, searched for treatments that didn't exist yet. Every appointment carried hope. Every result carried loss. Silence followed him home every night. Grief settled in quietly, not dramatic, just heavy and constant. Money had always given him control. Now it felt useless. The house was full, yet emotionally empty. Hopelessness crept in without warning. What he didn't know was this: the breakthrough wouldn't come from a lab, or a boardroom, or another medical opinion. It would come from someone ordinary, someone who listened instead of assumed, someone he barely noticed. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood where nothing came easy. Bills were paid late, not forgotten, just delayed by long shifts. He learned early that showing up mattered more than complaining. While others rested, he stayed late and kept his head down. That rhythm shaped how he saw the world and his place in it. Effort meant safety, and discipline meant survival. Those lessons followed him long after the struggle faded. As the years passed, that mindset carried him into business. He took risks, but never careless ones, always calculated. Every win reinforced his belief that control created results. Mistakes were fixed by working harder the next time. Soon, success wasn't luck. It was proof of his method. Becoming a millionaire felt earned, almost expected, and pride quietly settled in without asking permission. Money brought comfort, but also distance from uncertainty. Problems had solutions, and solutions had price tags. When something broke, it was replaced, not mourned. When plans failed, new ones were drawn up overnight. He trusted systems, numbers, and experts who spoke with confidence. That trust made the world feel predictable and manageable, until life introduced something no plan covered. Fatherhood arrived without negotiation or preparation. Holding his newborn son shifted something deep inside him. This wasn't a deal or a goal he could optimize. It was fragile, real, and completely out of his control. For the first time, effort felt emotional, not strategic. He promised protection without knowing what that meant. That promise would soon be tested in ways he never imagined. He expected challenges, just like every other stage of life. Sleepless nights, new routines, learning as he went. What he didn't expect was how quickly certainty could disappear. The confidence built over decades felt suddenly thin. Questions replaced answers before he could stop them. Still, he believed work would carry him through. After all, effort had never failed him before. His identity was built on fixing what went wrong. As a CEO, problems came to his desk every day. He listened, decided, and moved forward without hesitation. People trusted him because he trusted himself. That sense of control defined how others saw him and how he saw himself as a man and provider. It felt unshakable, almost permanent. But beneath that confidence was a quiet assumption that life rewarded persistence without exception, that trying harder, always bent outcomes in your favor. He didn't question it because he never had to. Yet a subtle crack was already forming in that belief, one that effort alone could not seal, and soon silence would make that truth impossible to ignore. The diagnosis came without drama, just facts laid out in a calm voice. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. "Born deaf," the doctor said, steady and certain. No cure available, no clear path forward. Medical experts had seen this many times before. For them, it was information, not a turning point. For him, it felt like the ground had shifted. He sat there, nodding, pretending to absorb every detail. Inside, his mind raced ahead, already searching for fixes. He asked about treatments, studies, new technology. The answers stayed careful, limited, and restrained. Doctors failed to offer hope dressed as certainty. They spoke about managing expectations, not outcomes. That language felt foreign and unsettling to him. The room felt tighter with every sentence spoken. Machines hummed softly, filling the gaps between words. He looked at his son, unaware of the weight in that space. The child rested peacefully, untouched by the tension. Silence surrounded them, heavier than noise ever could be. It wasn't dramatic, just deeply final. And that finality pressed against his chest. He thought about everything money had solved before. Missed deadlines, business risks, unexpected losses. Millions spent had always produced some kind of answer, but here, wealth had no leverage. No shortcut appeared, no negotiation possible. For the first time in his life, money felt small, and that realization unsettled him more than the diagnosis. Grief didn't arrive all at once. It crept in quietly. It showed up in the pauses between thoughts, in the drive home that felt longer than usual, in the way the house sounded different that night. Loss didn't look like absence, it looked like uncertainty. Hopelessness whispered instead of shouted, and he didn't know how to answer it. As a single dad, responsibility pressed down harder. There was no one else to lean on in that moment. Every future plan suddenly felt fragile. He wondered what his son's life would look like, what doors might stay closed without sound, questions stacked up without resolution, and none of them fit neatly into a spreadsheet. He told himself this was just another problem to solve. That effort and persistence would carry him through. That mindset had never failed him before. Yet something about this felt different, resistant. The silence wasn't pushing back, it was simply there, unmoved by ambition or confidence. And it left him facing something he couldn't command. He refused to accept limits without exhausting every option. If answers didn't exist nearby, he would bring them in. Doctors were flown from different cities and backgrounds. Medical experts reviewed scans, tests, and reports late into the night. Each one spoke with care, never with certainty. Still, he listened closely, searching for promise between the lines. Hope, at that stage, was built on small possibilities. Travel became routine, not adventure. Hospitals blurred together across states and highways. Waiting rooms replaced boardrooms in his weekly schedule. He learned the language of appointments and follow-ups. Every visit carried the same quiet question underneath. Could this be the one that changes everything? And every time, the answer came back incomplete. Treatments were suggested, then adjusted, then abandoned. Nothing reckless, nothing untested, always measured. Millions spent felt reasonable when weighed against his son's future. He signed papers without hesitation or second thought. Money moved faster than emotion ever could, yet outcomes stayed stubbornly the same. Silence followed them home every single time. Each failed attempt left a mark he couldn't see. Not loud disappointment, but slow erosion. Confidence softened, certainty thinned out. The belief that effort always paid off began to bend. He noticed it in his pauses, his breathing, in the way optimism required more effort than before. Hope started to feel like work instead of instinct. He kept pushing because stopping felt worse. Doing nothing meant accepting what he wasn't ready to face, so he scheduled another visit, called another specialist. Every new lead felt urgent, necessary. Even when doubt whispered that they were circling, he ignored it, choosing motion over reflection. Forward still felt safer than standing still. At home, the cost wasn't just financial. The emotional weight followed him into quiet evenings. His son's laughter existed without sound, gentle and unaware. That contrast stayed with him longer than any diagnosis. Grief and determination mixed in confusing ways. One pushed him forward, the other pulled him back. Neither offered relief. Slowly, something began to change inside him. The urgency lost its sharp edge. Not because he stopped caring, but because exhaustion set in. Hope didn't disappear, it grew fragile, held together by routine rather than belief, and beneath all that effort, a deeper question formed. What happens when hope can't keep up anymore? The house no longer felt empty, yet it carried a different kind of silence. Not the absence of people, but the absence of response. His deaf child filled the rooms with movement and smiles. There was laughter without sound, joy without echo. Toys were shaken, doors closed, music played softly. Nothing pulled the child's attention toward noise. That quiet settled into daily life without asking permission. Mornings followed a steady rhythm. He prepared bottles, folded laundry, checked emails, all while speaking out loud about the simplest things: what the weather looked like, what needed to be done. His voice filled the space, even without an audience. It wasn't habit or denial, it was something else, a need he hadn't fully named yet. He talked during meals, explaining what sat on the table. He described colors, textures, little details that mattered to him. Sometimes he narrated memories from his own childhood, stories his son couldn't hear but could feel. Those moments grounded him when nothing else did. The sound of his own voice kept him steady. It reminded him he was still present. At night, the silence grew heavier. The city outside hummed, but inside remained still. He spoke softly while rocking his son to sleep, not because it would change anything medically, but because silence felt like giving up. Words became a bridge, not a solution, a way to stay connected when answers were missing. There were moments he caught himself listening for nothing, waiting for a reaction he knew wouldn't come. That pause always stung more than he expected, yet he never stopped talking through it. Stopping would have made the silence final, and he wasn't ready for that kind of acceptance. Not yet. Friends asked why he bothered. Why speak when sound made no difference? He never had a clear answer for them. It felt instinctive, almost protective, as if words could shield his son from loss or shield himself from hopelessness. Either way, it mattered to him. Over time, those quiet conversations changed him. They slowed his pace and softened his edges. He started noticing things he used to rush past: small expressions, subtle movements, quiet needs. The silence demanded attention instead of control, and in that attention, something began to shift. A question lingered beneath every spoken word. She arrived on the same days, every week, always on time. No rush, no noise, no need to be noticed. The maid moved through the house with quiet purpose. She cleaned, organized, and left things better than she found them. Most people barely registered her presence. To them, she was part of the background. But she paid attention to everything. As a housekeeper, she worked in many homes. Each one had its own rhythm and unspoken rules. This house felt heavier than most. Not messy, not chaotic, just quiet in a way that lingered. She sensed it from the first visit. Silence sat in the rooms like a guest that never left, and the child was always at the center of it. She saw the deaf child during ordinary moments, while toys were scattered across the floor, while the father rushed between calls and responsibilities. She noticed how the child smiled easily, how his eyes searched faces instead of sounds, how his body responded to touch, not noise. Those details stayed with her. Unlike visitors, she saw patterns over time, how the child reacted to movement, how he startled at vibrations but not voices. She noticed small pauses others missed, moments that didn't fit the diagnosis cleanly, nothing dramatic, just subtle inconsistencies, enough to make her think twice. The father rarely spoke to her beyond courtesy, not out of disrespect, just distraction. His mind lived in meetings and medical updates. She understood that kind of focus. People with heavy lives often overlooked quiet ones. She didn't take it personally. She simply observed and remembered. During breaks, she found herself watching the child, not staring, just noticing. She had no training, no authority, no title, only experience shaped by real life. Years of seeing people when no one else looked. That skill came from necessity, not education, and it sharpened her awareness. Something about the child didn't leave her thoughts. A small detail she couldn't fully explain yet. It surfaced every time she heard his soft laughter, every time the house fell silent again. She felt a quiet pull to understand it, not to interfere, not to overstep, just to make sense of what others might have missed. The thought didn't arrive all at once. It surfaced quietly while she worked, a memory she hadn't visited in years, a child from her past who lived in silence, not by choice, not by fate, just by oversight. That memory carried weight she still felt, and it refused to stay buried. Back then, she was younger and just as overlooked, working long hours, listening more than speaking. She remembered how everyone assumed the worst. Doctors spoke with confidence. Family accepted the outcome. No cure, they said, and no reason to question it. Silence became the child's identity until one small detail changed everything. It wasn't advanced equipment or expert insight. It was a simple cause, easily missed, something physical, something no one thought to check. The solution felt almost embarrassing in hindsight. Yet it took courage for someone to notice it, courage to question authority without credentials. That moment stayed with her ever since. She remembered the shock on everyone's faces, the sudden shift from hopelessness to relief, tears that came without warning. A life-changing moment born from attention, not power. That experience reshaped how she saw the world. It taught her that certainty can be misleading, and silence doesn't always mean final. Now, standing in this house, the memory echoed. The same quiet patterns, the same assumptions. Medical experts had done their work, but experience told her something was missing. Not wrong, just incomplete. And that distinction mattered more than people realized. It always had. She didn't jump to conclusions. She questioned herself before questioning anyone else. Time had taught her humility, but it had also taught her trust in observation. Some lessons come from living, not learning. And this one had been earned the hard way. It asked to be acknowledged. As she watched the deaf child again, the feeling returned, a familiar sense of unfinished understanding. She didn't know what it meant yet, only that ignoring it felt wrong. The memory refused to fade this time. It pressed forward, demanding attention, and with it came an unsettling possibility. She knew exactly who she was in that house, a maid hired to clean, not to question. Her role had clear limits, spoken and unspoken. She wasn't a doctor with a degree on the wall. She wasn't family with a voice at the table. She wasn't rich enough to be taken seriously. And that awareness shaped every thought she had. Doubt settled in before courage could form. What if she was wrong this time? What if her memory misled her? The idea of causing false hope felt unbearable. She had seen disappointment before. It left deeper scars than silence ever did. That fear kept her quiet. She watched the desperate father move through the house, always focused, always tired, always trying. Grief followed him without being named. Loss had taken a permanent seat in his life. She didn't want to add to that burden. Being wrong felt cruel in its own way, so she stayed in her place. Every visit became harder than the last. The thought returned again and again. Each time she pushed it away, it came back stronger. She told herself the medical experts knew better. They had training, tools, authority. Who was she to question that? An ordinary woman with no credentials. Fear didn't look dramatic. It looked like silence and hesitation, like choosing routine over risk, like wiping counters while her mind raced elsewhere. She avoided eye contact when the thought surfaced, as if looking away could make it disappear. It never did. There were moments she almost spoke. Words formed, then fell apart. Timing always felt wrong. The house was never quiet enough for that kind of conversation, or maybe it was too quiet. Either way, she waited, and waiting slowly became its own burden. Something inside her began to shift. Not confidence, but responsibility. The sense that silence could also cause harm, that not speaking carried its own risk. She didn't know what she would say yet, only that the thought wouldn't leave her alone. And sooner or later, it would demand a voice. That day felt no different at first. Same routine, same quiet rhythm in the house. She cleaned room by room, careful not to disturb anything. Yet something pulled her attention back to the living room. She paused longer than usual, cloth resting in her hand. The child sat on the floor, calm and focused, and she felt that familiar tension return. She watched him play without realizing how still she'd become. His movements were relaxed, his face open and curious. He reacted to light, to touch, to presence, but sound passed through the room without meaning. She noticed how close his attention stayed to the ground, how his head tilted slightly in one direction, a detail small enough to ignore, yet hard to forget. Her heart began to race, not with excitement, but fear. The thought pressed closer than ever before. This wasn't imagination, it felt grounded and real. Still, fear rose faster than certainty. Fear of crossing a line she was never meant to cross. Fear of being dismissed or misunderstood. Fear of making things worse instead of better. She thought about finishing her work and leaving quietly, about stepping outside and letting the door close behind her. Once gone, the responsibility would fade. Someone else would handle it, someone more qualified. That excuse almost felt comforting. Walking away required no explanation. Silence would protect her from judgment, but as she gathered her things, she hesitated again. She looked back at the child one more time. Something about that moment felt final, as if choosing silence now would settle everything, not just for her, but for him too. The weight of that choice pressed heavily on her chest, and fear began to compete with something stronger. She thought about the memory that never left her, the child from her past, and the cost of delay, how easily time slips away when no one speaks up. That thought made her pause at the doorway. Her hand rested on the handle longer than it should have. Leaving suddenly felt heavier than staying, and that realization changed the balance. She stood there, caught between fear and responsibility, between knowing her place and trusting her instincts. The house remained quiet, waiting. No signal told her what to do next, only the weight of the moment itself. She took a breath she didn't realize she needed, and in that breath, a decision began to form. She didn't interrupt or raise her voice. She waited for a quiet moment that felt right. Her words came slowly, careful and respectful. It wasn't framed as a claim or a solution, just a question shaped by concern and humility. A question that carried no judgment, only the weight of genuine care. She spoke about something small she had noticed, something physical, something easy to miss. She didn't mention miracles or promises. She admitted she could be wrong. That honesty lowered every defense in the room. It made the question feel safe to hear and impossible to ignore. The billionaire CEO didn't respond right away. He had heard thousands of pitches in his life. Most were loud, confident, and urgent. This one was none of those things. It came from an ordinary woman with no agenda. That difference made him pause, and that pause mattered. For once, he didn't rush to correct or dismiss. He didn't reach for data or credentials. He simply listened, fully present. The desperate father in him surfaced quietly. Grief softened his pride without warning. He realized how long it had been since he truly listened, not to experts, but to people. Her questions settled into him slowly. It didn't clash with what doctors had said. It slipped between the gaps they left behind. Medical experts had focused on outcomes, not details. This question pointed to a possibility, not a conclusion. And possibilities were something he understood, even when they felt uncomfortable. He looked at his son differently after that. Not with panic, but with renewed attention. He replayed months of silence in his mind, small moments he had brushed past before, things that now felt worth revisiting. The question stayed with him longer than expected. It refused to fade away. That single moment shifted the direction of everything, not because it offered hope right away, but because it reopened curiosity he had buried. It reminded him that certainty can be fragile, and that answers don't always come from authority. Sometimes they arrive as quiet questions, and once asked, they can't be unasked. She pointed it out gently, almost hesitating as she did. Not a diagnosis, not a theory, just an observation, a small object, something physical that didn't belong there, easy to overlook when searching for complex answers, easy to dismiss when trusting systems and machines. She spoke plainly, without confidence or fear in her tone, just clarity shaped by attention. The room changed the moment her words settled. No one spoke right away. Air seemed heavier, slower. The CEO felt his chest tighten as the thought landed. Medical experts had run tests and scans. They had searched deep, but not wide, and suddenly, that mattered. He replayed past appointments in his mind, the focus on charts, numbers, probabilities, the language of long-term management, not simple checks. No one had mentioned this possibility before, not because it was impossible, but because it seemed too basic to consider. That realization unsettled him. The housekeeper stood still, unsure if she'd gone too far. She watched his reaction carefully. There was no anger, no dismissal, only a quiet intensity she hadn't expected. The desperate father had taken over, and desperation listens differently. It hears what pride once filtered out. He asked questions, not defensively but earnestly, clarifying, not challenging. Each answer tightened the focus. What if the problem wasn't permanent silence? What if something was blocking hearing itself? The idea felt almost dangerous to believe. Hope, at this point, came with risk. The medical experts exchanged looks. They didn't reject the thought outright. That hesitation spoke louder than words. A simple cause had never been ruled out. It had just never been prioritized, and that gap now stood wide open, wide enough to step into. The CEO felt the weight of the moment pressed down. Believing in this meant reopening hope, and hope had already hurt him before. But ignoring it felt worse than trying. The room stayed quiet as the choice took shape. A small detail had shifted everything, and nothing would feel the same after this point. The doctors didn't rush to agree or disagree. They exchanged careful looks, weighing risk and responsibility. No one wanted to be wrong at this stage. The idea felt too simple after everything already tried. Years of training taught them to be cautious. Certainty mattered more than speed in their world, and hesitation filled the space between them. The CEO felt that hesitation echo inside himself. He had lived by decisive action his entire life, yet this moment felt heavier than any business call. Choosing meant reopening a door he had closed for protection. Hope had cost him sleep, peace, and control. Letting it back in felt dangerous, but so did walking away again. He looked at his son, calm and unaware. The child played quietly, content in his own world. That image grounded him more than any expert voice. Doing nothing would freeze life exactly as it was. No growth, no answers, no movement forward. Time had already taken enough from them. He wasn't willing to give it more. He asked what the risk truly was, not emotionally but practically. What could be lost that hadn't already been lost? The doctors explained carefully, without promises. No guarantees, no dramatic claims, just a chance worth considering. That honesty mattered to him. For a long moment, no one spoke. The decision settled quietly, not dramatically. He felt fear, but it no longer led the way. Responsibility did. The same instinct that built his company resurfaced. Not pride this time, but commitment. Commitment to act, rather than freeze. He nodded, once, firmly. The kind of nod that ended meetings and started action. The doctors took that as their signal. Preparations began without celebration or relief, only focus filled the room. Everyone understood the weight of what came next. Some choices changed direction forever. As the process moved forward, the housekeeper stepped back. Her part was done, whether this worked or not. She felt fear and hope collide inside her. There was no turning back now. The next moment would answer everything, and once it arrived, nothing could be undone. The room held its breath as everything paused. No one spoke, no one moved, not even the doctors. Time felt stretched, fragile, almost unreal. The billionaire father stood frozen, afraid to hope. Years of silence had taught him caution. Expectation had hurt too much before, so he waited, bracing for nothing. Then something subtle happened. The deaf child's eyes flickered, just slightly, not confusion, but awareness, a reaction no machine could fake. The sound was small, almost accidental, yet it landed like thunder in that room. Against all odds, something reached him. The child's face changed before anyone else noticed. Brows lifted, lips parted, curiosity replacing calm. It wasn't fear. It wasn't discomfort, it was recognition, a first sound brushing against a world once locked away. For a child born deaf, this moment defied logic. Doctors failed before, but now silence cracked. Then the child turned his head, not randomly, not by chance. He turned toward the sound, toward life, toward connection. Medical experts leaned forward in disbelief. Millions spent suddenly felt irrelevant. This was not theory, it was happening. The father felt his chest tighten painfully. Shock surged before emotion could catch up. He had imagined miracles before, but never like this. This wasn't loud or cinematic. It was quiet, intimate, undeniable. Hope restored didn't arrive screaming. It arrived gently, like a whisper. Tears formed without permission, not yet falling, just waiting. The desperate father realized this was real. No cure had turned into a possibility. A second chance unfolding in real time. Faith returned, not as belief, but as proof. Life was changing in front of him. No one celebrated yet. No one dared speak too soon. They all knew what this moment meant. Once you hear, you can never return to silence. The miracle had begun, fragile but alive, and what followed would reshape every life in that room, especially the father's. The CEO didn't try to stay composed. He didn't turn away or hide his face. The tears came fast and heavy, not the kind he could manage or explain. Years of grief finally found a way out. The silence he carried collapsed all at once. Control meant nothing anymore. This was a desperate father, not a billionaire. A single dad stripped of status and pride. All the meetings, numbers, and power disappeared. What remained was loss, fear, and love. He had carried hopelessness quietly for too long. Now it spilled into the room without restraint, and no one tried to stop it. He thought about every night he spoke into silence, every word his son never heard, every promise money couldn't keep. Doctors failed him. Plans failed him. Logic failed him. For the first time, he didn't feel helpless. He felt human, and that broke him open. His hands trembled as he covered his face, not from weakness, but from release. This was grief leaving his body. This was relief crashing into pain. The shocked father wasn't embarrassed. He was present, fully, painfully present. The maid watched quietly from the side. She didn't step forward. She didn't expect gratitude or praise. She only saw a man finally breathe again. Kindness had done what power could not. Humility changed the room before words ever could. A life-changing moment settled in. Medical experts stood still, unsure what to say. They had facts, charts, and years of training, but none of it explained this. Against all odds, hope had found a crack. Faith wasn't loud here, it was quiet and undeniable, and everyone felt it. When the father finally looked up, he saw his son differently, not as a problem to solve, not as a condition to manage, but as a child stepping into sound. This moment rewired something inside him, and the way he lived would never be the same. Nothing would be the same again. The maid stayed where she was, hands folded, eyes low. She didn't move toward the family. She didn't claim credit or seek attention. Overwhelmed by what had just happened, she was an ordinary woman in an extraordinary moment, and she wasn't ready for what came next. The CEO turned to her slowly, not with authority, not with command, but with something softer in his face. He saw her beyond the role of housekeeper, beyond schedules, uniforms, and routines. For the first time, he truly saw her, and that changed everything. Gratitude replaced pride in his voice, not polished, not rehearsed, raw and honest. He realized how close he came to missing this moment, how easily humility could have been ignored. Kindness didn't announce itself, it waited to be noticed. He understood something that money never taught him. Listening mattered more than control. Presence mattered more than power. The unexpected solution didn't come from status. It came from care and attention, from someone who paid close attention to silence, someone who wasn't trying to impress anyone. The maid felt uncomfortable receiving thanks. She wasn't used to it. Her life had taught her to stay invisible, to do good quietly and move on. But this gratitude landed differently. It wasn't about praise, it was about recognition. The room felt lighter now, not because of success, but because of connection. Faith didn't feel abstract anymore. It felt practical, it felt human, it felt earned. As the moment settled, the CEO felt something shift inside. Wealth no longer meant protection or certainty. It meant responsibility, to listen more, to assume less, to value voices he once overlooked. And that lesson would follow him long after this day. Money didn't save his son, not the millions spent, not the medical experts, not the long flights or private rooms. For a long time, he believed wealth could fix anything, but silence proved him wrong, and that truth stayed with him. What changed everything was listening, really listening, to a quiet voice that didn't demand space, to an ordinary woman with no title, to concern that came from care, not ego. Humility opened a door money couldn't touch, and it stayed open. The house felt different now, not louder in noise, but fuller in meaning. Silence no longer carried fear. It carried patience, hope restored without force or pressure. The air felt lighter, like grief had finally loosened its grip. The CEO understood loss in a new way, not just what he almost lost, but what he almost missed. Connection isn't bought. It's built through attention and trust. Against all odds, that lesson arrived gently, and it stayed. The maid returned to her routine. Same days, same hours, but the dynamic had changed. Respect replaced distance. Kindness became mutual. A second chance didn't come with ceremony. It came with consistency. The deaf child grew in a world that now felt open, not perfect, but possible. A miracle didn't erase challenges, it reframed them. The shocked father learned that faith lives in action, and action starts small. Wealth took on a new meaning in that home, not control, not certainty, but awareness. The house was no longer silent, because someone chose to listen, and that choice changed everything. The CEO learned something he never saw coming. Success can sharpen the mind, but it can also narrow it. It trains you to listen to data, not people, to trust authority, not intuition. And over time, it makes you blind in quiet ways, sometimes even deaf to what really matters. That realization stayed with him. The person who changed his son's life had no title, no degree on the wall, no power in the room. She had attention, she had care, she had the courage to speak when it felt risky, and that was enough. This story wasn't about a miracle alone. It was about humility, about slowing down long enough to notice small details, about faith that shows up through action. The unexpected solution didn't come from force. It came from kindness and presence, from listening without pride. So here's the question that lingers. Who have you been overlooking in your own life? What quiet voice have you tuned out? What answer might already be close, waiting to be heard? Real change often arrives without noise. It shows up gently, and it asks for attention. If this story moved you, take a moment to subscribe. These are stories about people, not just wealth. About faith, humility, and second chances. Like this video, leave a comment and share it, because someone out there may need this reminder today. And more stories like this are waiting for you here.